What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Credit Lake. Today we are reading parts 21 and 22 of Misunderstanding, a standard-sized fanfic by ElliottGreen333. If you'd like to support the book or the author, feel free to do so in the description below. There's links to the book and the author, so please make sure you badooby-doo that, because they deserve all the support ever. There is also links to a Google form in the description where you can recommend future Wattpad Read Aloud books. You could have written it. It could have been written by a different author. It could be standard-sized. It doesn't need to be standard-sized. It could be another fandom. It could be on Wattpad, but you could also have the fic from Tumblr, AO3, fanfiction.net, just anywhere you find fanfiction. So, with that, let us get into part 21, Deceit. What? I clarified. Logan began wrapping my other hand, not responding to my question or even giving a sign as to whether he heard me or not. I looked to Virgil, seeing him bob his head yes to his boyfriend's statement. From what Virgil's been telling me, you were very close in bringing back Roman's memories, Logan admitted. If I were really that close, Roman wouldn't know who you guys are right now. He'd understand who Remus is and why he serves Thomas. Look, if I had figured that out, we wouldn't be here right now, so how damn close could I have been? I pouted. I looked down at my hands as Logan finished wrapping his hands. I clenched my fists a few times, gaining feeling in them again. Patton silently pushed my gloves over. I thanked him with a small kiss, requiring his help to put them on. Why did you do it, Dee? Patton questioned. Why did you erase his memories? Because he was going to take you away from me, Patton. When Roman confronted me, he figured out we were a thing. I was so afraid of the things he'd do to break us up. He was going to get me banished from your side of the mind. I didn't want that. I was so scared of what he'd do. I didn't want to risk it, but I didn't know I'd erase his memories, I revealed. Oh, Deceit, you didn't have to do that for me. If Roman had tried to get you banned, we would have worked something out, Patton cooed. That's great and all, Virgil blurted. But why were the memories spared? I looked at my shoes and took a deep breath. I wasn't sure how to explain this. I was afraid of what Roman could do to me and Patton. My abilities grow stronger with fear, so instead of hurting Roman or just knocking him out, his memories disappeared. With you, I was at a point where I was afraid and worried about everything that was going on. But, V, you're my friend. Seeing you in pain and almost getting your memories taken away replaced my fear with concern. Therefore, the spell broke. By the end of the explanation, Patton's hand had slipped into mine. Virgil was clinging onto Logan, the two looking at each other. If I may, Deceit, Logan said, lifting his hand a small bit. Since you represent Thomas's deception, it does make sense that you get stronger with fear, as oftentimes lies and falsehoods grow bigger and more crazy the more fear a person has within them. Everyone nodded. It made sense. I can't believe you did that to defend our relationship, Patton sniffled. Are you mad? I asked worriedly. Not at you. More at myself. I yelled at you in our fight, but all you were trying to do was protect us. I'm so sorry, Dee Dee. He sobbed. My heart shrunk into my shoes. I hugged him tightly, never wanting to let go. I hate to break up the moment, Logan interjected, but I believe we need to get Roman his memories back before Thomas spirals into madness. But how? I never figured out how to give them back, I panicked. Logan snickered, taking a seat next to me. When you got rid of their memories, overwhelming fear was flowing through you. Your main reaction to that fear is to take it away the thing giving you fear. Now, that's how the memories got lost. However, to give them back, I can't be afraid of him. I finished. Logan nodded. He must have done a lot of research since we last spoke. I nodded, standing up. I walked over to the prince, staring him directly in the eyes. He looked at me too, extending his hand to me. I'm sorry if I scared you. Even if I don't remember doing it, I'm sorry. I took Roman's hand, putting it back down by his side. You have nothing to be sorry for. This sin sits on my shoulders. I don't know why I was afraid of you. I've gotten to know you a little better, more since you're just an extravagant, extra-heroic prince. I knew I couldn't run away from this. Problems just don't solve themselves, but I'm sorry, Roman. It's okay. But I hope you know, I give you and Patton my approval. You two are a cute couple. I don't want to be in the way of that. I smiled while Patton cheered and clapped. My hands began to glow a bright gold, as Roman's body did the same. A red mist traveled from my body to his. He had a content smile on his face as he watched it, his eyes peacefully closing. I started thinking of everything we've done this past month, everything that I went through, everything Patton went through, everything Virgil, Logan, Roman, and Thomas went through. I was glad that this was all going to be behind us. Roman's glow subsided as he passed out on the floor, as he once did before. Patton came over to me, placing his arms around me. I watched Roman contently sleep, so glad this misunderstanding was starting to blow over. I am so proud of you, Dee. Patton smiled, pecking my cheek. I'm proud of us, darling. We did this together, I reminded him. All right, sappy ever after sides. We should get him back home, Virgil pointed out. We all agreed. Each of us put a hand on his chest. Slowly, we all slunk out of my house, heading towards the Light Mine Palace. Part 22. Logan. We arrived back in the Mine Palace. Roman was still unconscious on the ground, while Virgil's hand was tightly held in mine. We looked at each other, a settled blush rushing over the both of us. Virgil helped me to my feet. Our eyes met in a deep gaze. I pressed a kiss into his forehead, his blushing slowly spreading like a disease. He seemed a lot calmer, too. I know to hold in that secret from Patton, and I took a lot out of him. But I am so glad he's grown happier over time. I saw Patton capture Deceit in a giant hug. The snake seemed happy, too. He seemed a lot less stressed now that this entire situation was behind him. I smiled brightly at them. Finally, Patton was back to his usual happy self. I never realized how much love he had in his heart for Deceit. It made me feel kind of bad that they felt they needed to hide their relationship from us. How long until he wakes up? Virgil questioned. Last time, it took about 2 days. Hopefully, when he wakes up, he'll be back to normal, the snake prayed. We looked over at the prince, his peacefully sleeping chest rising and falling. I hope you're right, Dee. I don't know how much more emotional trauma Thomas can take, Patton innocently joked. We worked together, each of us grabbing one of Roman's limbs to carry him up the stairs. Getting him into bed, we all lightly celebrated. I shut his door as we exited it, content smiles on all of our faces. So, how are we going to break all of this to Thomas? I questioned. On cue, I got a tugging sensation in my gut. Virgil, Patton, and I swapped glances. Speak of the devil, Virgil sighed, sticking his hands in his pockets and slipping through the floor. I was going to follow him down when I noticed Deceit taking a step away from Patton. Their once locked hands had drifted apart. What's wrong, Dee? Patton riddled. The snake looked at the floor, kicking lightly at the tan carpet. Nothing. Your host needs you. You should go. he replied with a melancholy tone. Patton reached out his hand, grabbing onto the yellow glove wrapped around Deceit's scaly body. Thomas needs us, Dee. Not just me. Not just Logan or Virgil. All of us. But what if he's mad at me for damaging his creativity? What if he never wants me around or tries to get rid of me? What if he forbids us from seeing each other? He panicked. The fatherly figure up a finger to his lip, silencing him instantly. That's never going to happen. I promise you, Dee. There's nothing to be afraid of. He pulled the snake into a much-needed hug. It took Deceit by surprise, but his body relaxed into the display of affection. His eyes fluttered over to me. I smirked, sinking down into the floor with the both of them following me. When I arrived in Thomas's living room, Virgil was at my right, and the other two were holding hands where Patton usually stands by himself. Thomas was a bit shocked at first to see his lying side, but was overwhelmed with more shock when he saw their hands locked together. Thomas, there's something Deceit and I want to share with you, Patton proudly announced. I felt Virgil slip his hand through the stair railing and hold my hand. My heart skipped a few beats as Thomas turned his head to us. There is something we should probably tell you also. Virgil smirked, going red hot. Thomas passed his glances between us two couples. He began to open his mouth, the words not coming out. Speechless, huh? Virgil scoffed. I suppose I just don't know what to say. I mean, I knew something was up. I just didn't realize this is what you guys were hiding from me. Thomas chuckled, putting his hand loosely over his mouth in shock. That's not the only secret that has been kept from you, Thomas. Deceit spoke up. He straightened his cape, trying to force the words out of his mouth before he grew second thoughts on the matter. I know you know Roman was not acting like himself the other day, and that is 100% my fault. What? What do you mean? What I mean is, I erased Roman's mind to protect Patton. It was an accident. I didn't mean to do it on purpose. I just wanted our relationship to be safe. And he tried to take it away. I'm really sorry about the distress I caused you. Really, I kept Virgil from you. I left Patton with sleepiness nights. You lost my presence entirely. I never meant all this pain. Oh, Deceit. That's a really heartfelt thing for you to say, and I thank you for telling me yourself. Thomas sincerely spoke. Deceit waved his hand, sheepishly rolling his eyes as if it was nothing. Is Roman going to be okay? I mean, he should wake up tomorrow or so. If everything goes correctly, your creativity should be back on track in no time, Deceit assured him. How do you feel, kiddo? Patton chimed in. Definitely better than I did before. Less foggy, more so filled with a clear sense of who I am. He tried to explain. Virgil and I smiled, squeezing our hands together tighter. That's so good, kiddo, Patton whispered. Anyway, it's been a long day, and I don't know about you guys, but I'd like to be much like Roman and be asleep. We all entirely chuckled at the joke. It couldn't have been more than 7 a.m., but from all the stress of Deceit staying up all night studying memory loss, I was ready to figuratively abuse a piece of horse food. We said our goodnights to Thomas as we sunk down into the mind. As we rose up, the sun was blazing through our blinds. Deceit held Patton shut them while Virgil croaked out a yawn. Sunrise, time for bed, he grumbled. I laughed, taking his shoulders and guiding him up to my room. I waved to Deceit and Patton as they headed into the father's room. Once inside our room, Virgil's knees gave out as he fell further into me. I barely caught him by his underarms, seeing a smirk slip onto his face. You're not going to help me, are you? I joked. Your boyfriend, your problem, he playfully groaned. I rolled my eyes, giving up my grip on him and letting him fall. It wasn't a big fall, but it was enough to get his eyes to rack it up. The fuck, dude? He pouted. Your boyfriend, your problem, I repeated. He grumbled, pushing himself off the ground. He met me at my bed, simply collapsing onto it. I joined him, grabbing him and pulling him lovingly into my arms. I love you, V, I purred, stroking his hair calmly. I love you too, he slurred. Our feet dangled over the bed as we both fell into a deep sleep. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to join me for the very last episode, the very last 2 chapters, next week, next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. In the description, there are links to things like my Etsy shop, the Google form to recommend fanfics, and other various social medias like Twitter and TikTok where I do same-size cosplays. Thank you for watching, and much like Deceit, trying to confess his sins, do your best.